All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Crossing Swords. As always, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Joanna.
You are indeed. I actually sort of owe you an apology because when we had you on the last time, I never actually introduced you.
No, everyone must not have a clue who I was.
No, I guess like throughout the episode they'd have guessed that you were my sister, but it would have taken maybe 5-10 minutes, I reckon.
So this is my official introduction as the sister of Crossing Swords.
Yeah, and it feels only right to replay this.
I said certified free, 7 days a week. Wet ass pussy, make that pull out game weak.
It still feels weird playing that for my sister, though.
Do you know, it's really annoying because I thought yesterday of the intro music I wanted for this episode.
Oh, did you?
And I forgot to tell you, and now I've completely forgotten what it was anyway.
Oh,
So
okay, fair enough.
if I fill in for Jake again at some
You'll
point, I'll try and remember.
How does it feel stepping into Jake's giant mammoth podcasting shoes?
Man shoes, yeah. Well, it's...
Or his cowboy boots,
like
I should
you say,
say.
it's big shoes to fill, Jake. I only hope I can live up to the expectations and deliver a good episode in your absence. So
Knowing Jake and how arrogant he is, self-proclaimed arrogant.
it won't be possible, I know,
No,
Jake.
but you're going to do your best.
I can strive. I can try hard, yeah.
Yeah, it's never going to be the same without Jake, obviously.
No. I am no Jake.
No, that you are not. You're far less hairy.
Way less hairy, thankfully.
Yeah. That would be weird. It'd be good for YouTube numbers, though. They'd be like, who's that beast sat across from him?
The brother and the beast.
Yeah. That would be the name of our podcast, wouldn't it, then?
The brother and the beast. You know, we can go that way if you want. I'm
Yeah,
not too
yeah.
bothered.
When I eventually, kick Jake out, do you know what I mean?
I know I'm not hairy, so I don't mind being called a beast. It's fine.
No. But no, welcome on the pod. It's nice to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
That's all right. Thank you for turning up. Not everyone would.
Yeah, I mean, we're only starting a couple of hours later than you'd have liked, but
To be honest, though, with most things I do with you, I apply an unlimited time scale to it.
it's the most sensible
And
thing,
I think
really.
I actually said to Mum yesterday when I said, like, we're doing it at 1 o'clock, I said, but 3 o'clock's my more accurate estimate, and that's more, we're pretty
we
much
did
on
okay.
time.
I'm only about 10 minutes behind. If it was just me, I'd probably be about 15 minutes to half an hour late for everything.
Yeah.
But I blame it on everybody else.
You
and
had kids into it and a
yeah,
husband.
it's just I might see you the next day, basically. So.
No, but I think I've got better with my...
No, you're really patient, to be
Yeah.
fair. Like
I didn't used to be.
I used to get a bit anxious about being late and
Yeah.
telling you I was going to be late, but now I'm just like, fuck it, he already knows, so I'm going to be late.
Yeah. So
And now even Jeremy's dad and his partner, I'll say to her, so I'll try and be with you about 11, and then I'll go, but we both know that means 12. So
Yeah. At the earliest.
And then I think the last time I said that, I said I'll aim for 11. We both know that'll be 12, and the time we ended up turning up was 1:45. So,
I can absolutely believe that. But no, we love you anyway. Do you know what I
thank
mean?
you, and it's a pleasure to be here, back in my
Childhood
home.
Yeah, it is weird that I do the podcast in my childhood home. I actually like the idea, though, if the podcast blew up, of like having a celebrity come round here,
Yeah,
not
that'd be
tidying
amazing.
up, having it as it is.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
every
Idris
podcast.
Elba's coming round.
Yeah,
and
sat at the head of the table.
This is just where we grew up, Idris. Like,
yeah, there's Mum's iron involved.
the cat's getting up on the table.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. I think it adds something a bit different, all the podcasters at the moment have got all these glam studios or podcast buses.
Too much.
Who's fussing with any of that stuff, man, when you've got this beautiful...
But at the same time, if any organisation would like to give me a really nice studio, I'd absolutely be on
Or a
board with that.
podcast bus that we could drive around.
That
Imagine
would be
going
good
on
as
tour
well.
on a podcast bus.
That would be quite cool.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
And we could combine it with Jake's new job, and we could do
Yes.
tour guiding at the same time
He can
around the
tell us all the
country.
facts of
And then you
everything.
could do live podcasting from the bus while taking everyone around Aberdeen or something. It'd be...
Look,
yeah.
well, I'm just going to leave that in your capable hands.
Do you know what? I think we should get the wheels in motion.
Yeah, you should look into getting us
I'll
a
get
bus.
on to Jake. Maybe he could bring his
Yeah.
bus home.
Isn't there an auction house near where like Leanne lives where they sell old buses and shit?
Oh, is there?
I think so.
No, but I reckon Jake should just say, look, like, you're not using it all the time.
Yeah.
Like, how about when it's on its downtime? We'll be using it as a podcast
Yeah.
bus.
Ash can drive a bus as well.
Sorted. Well, we'll
We'll
just...
get him in.
And we'll have so much money from this successful podcast that Ash will just be on some mega salary as our driver, and
He'd do it for free. I know, Ash.
well, no, but the guy's got to live.
Yeah, but he'll be living on the bus.
What about his doggies? Oh yeah, we get to live with his doggies.
All right, yeah, we'll pay him some money. He's got to feed
We've
the
got
dogs.
to feed the dogs.
Yeah, fair enough.
But
And
yeah,
they are
so-
really cute.
And we want to be driven around by a man in a Prada suit, so
Yeah, I don't see him doing that.
well, he has to.
He'd
It's-
probably want to drive in his birthday suit.
no. There's Prada suit or nothing. It's a condition of the job.
I can see him saying no then.
No, I think it'd be great. And we've got to get Mum on as well on this tour bus.
Yeah, I'm not sure about having Mum on the pod.
Why?
Really don't. That feels like a certain level of personal I'm not comfortable with. I don't
guess
know why.
so. What, like showing your mum to the world?
Yeah, and it's not because I'm ashamed of Mum in any way, because I love her to bits, but it's just like, you know someone if you know their
No,
mum.
who's the
Do you know what I
actor
mean?
that only ever takes their mum on the
there's
red
loads of them that
carpet?
do that.
Oh no, it's quite. Oh, I can't remember. There's quite a famous actor that only. Is it Matthew McConaughey?
I think you're right.
He's
yeah.
one of the people that only ever takes his mum, and I just think that's banging. Like,
Yeah. It's a little bit gay
awesome.
as well, though.
But he's not gay though.
No, 100%. Matthew McConaughey, not. But it is a little bit gay to do it.
No, I think it's cool. You got to respect the mum, haven't you? I think we should
Well,
get
no,
her
look.
on at some point. Maybe for like
What, Matthew McConaughey's mum?
No, that'd be weird.
Do you know what, though? She'd have some stories.
Definitely.
Yeah.
How do we turn our kids into Matthew McConaughey's mum?
I think it just sounds like it's pure luck.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all right place, right time,
And be
isn't it?
really good looking.
And have a cool accent.
Yeah. Yeah, and have your first ever lines on screen be, all right, all right, all right.
Was that his first
first
ever lines
ever
on
lines,
screen?
yeah.
Amazing. Oh,
And it was completely improvised as well. He said it was like the thing he always said in real life. And he said the character, he just said he was getting into character and he was like, I've got this, I've got this, I've got this. So I'm all right, all right, all right.
Well, and he's got that southern appeal, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So he's just Southern
I
Americans
mean, look, I
are
would.
charming.
I'm
and-
throwing it out there. Matthew McConaughey.
Oh
I would.
yeah. Anyone should turn for
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what I love about that scene is like everyone saying the look on Leo's face when he realised he wasn't going to get the Oscar again, getting outperformed by a cameo appearance.
Well, and that was all. That wasn't meant to be in the scene, was it? That
no,
was
it's just what he does to get
the
himself.
warm up to get into
Yeah,
character,
yeah.
and it was so good that it was kept in. So,
Yeah.
no, I think that's brilliant.
Yeah. I mean, talking of Leonardo Dicaprio, that's actually a good jumping off point. One of
Okay.
the things we wanted to talk about was massive age gaps.
Ah, yeah.
And he's one of the most notorious out there. It's getting worse as time
I think
goes
has he
on.
currently got a? Is she 23 or is she? He's currently got a very young
They're
girlfriend.
normally anywhere between 19 to 24.
25 is the cut-off point,
Yeah.
I've heard, isn't it? As soon as they
25th
turn
birthday,
25.
they get their P45 or whatever it is.
P45,
yeah.
yeah.
You know, see you
Yeah.
later, love.
And apparently she's been quoted as saying that she didn't know Leonardo DiCaprio was a millionaire.
Yeah.
And she's just with him because he's fun.
I actually heard a story about him recently that he rents out a cinema twice a week when he's in like LA, where he gets in touch with like modelling agencies and basically goes through their books, picks out women he likes the look of, invites them all to this cinema to watch a film, will schmooze with them, and then basically select one that he wants to take to dinner, and then
Wow. That's really predatory. That's gross.
yeah. But then a bloke in his 40s going out with 19-year-olds is a bit
Well, of course, yeah. I mean, and that's kind of how we segue on to, like,
yeah.
what's an acceptable...
I actually don't know what my number is though.
I feel like... It's hard because I'm not sure where I'm at with 40s.
Yeah.
But I feel like if a man's in his 50s, and to be honest, that means even if you've crept over the line of 51...
Would you like a drink, by the way, while you're talking?
Oh, yeah, crack that Tory juice open. Give it a little swirl first.
I
you
did
know.
that before.
Oh, fair enough. I think if you're in your 50s... some people might not like this, but if you're in your 50s, I think your partner's age needs to start with a 3 and not a 2.
Yeah, I think I could be on board with that.
I mean, unless she was 29, about to turn 30, and you're only just 50, that's a bit different. But I think men in their mid-50s going out with women in their mid to late 20s is... Yeah, it's just... And what I don't understand is, are men really that stupid? Do they think these women are with them because they're the sexiest men on the planet?
I've listened to a
or
lot.
do they just not care that they're
It's
with
the
them for
second
their
one.
money?
They-
They're getting great pussy.
Most of them have already had children.
Yeah, they don't
they've
give a
been
shit.
married. They're like, I've done the relationship thing. She's taken half of it with her. I now don't give a fuck. I'm
Yeah.
going to have a 20-year-old
This one's
who
not going to
smokes it off
nag
its
me
hinges.
because it ain't that deep.
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
She just
Yeah.
wants to go for shopping trips and nice
Because
meals.
who was the picture I sent you yesterday? How old was he?
Oh.
Should I try and find
Oh,
it?
it was the guitarist of Led Zeppelin, wasn't it?
Yeah, and is he in his 80s, I believe?
Yeah, something like that. And he was with like a 30-odd-year-old.
Rock legend Jimmy Page, 79, sparks gossip as he steps out with stunning girlfriend Scarlett Sabay, 34, in Dubai. The Led Zeppelin guitarist introduces his younger flame to his 52-year-old daughter. Age is just a number for this iconic musician who shows no signs of slowing down in his love life. What do we think of that? So what's that as an age gap?
I mean, he's old enough to be her granddad.
So that's a 45-year age gap.
He could be her dad's dad.
And she's 13 years younger than his daughter.
Yeah, that's a bit weird, isn't it?
To
I
be
don't
hon-
think your girl or your partner should ever be allowed to be younger than your
To
children.
be honest with you, like, there's nothing obviously, like, there's nothing legally wrong with it.
I
She's
mean, no.
more than an adult. I'm not even necessarily sure it's creepy because, like, she is an adult. She doesn't look anything like a child, so I wouldn't say he's pervy. What I'm more interested in is, why does a 34-year-old woman want to shag a 79-year-old man?
I mean,
like,
realistically, how often can he? Do you know what I mean? So that might be one of the things that it's only like once a month.
I can't get my head around how there are this many women that can, like, swallow sick that often. Like, I
Yeah.
don't care how many Birkin handbags he's buying you.
Your skin's still going to crawl when he's on top.
Yeah, I can't. Because you mentioned Bernie Ecclestone.
Oh,
Was it Bernie
no,
Ecclestone? No.
Who's the paper mogul?
Murdoch.
That's the one.
Murdoch's just got married again.
Yeah. But she was like in her 60s or 50s.
Yeah, I
wasn't
think
she?
he's 89 and she's
Yeah.
early 60s maybe. So to me, that's...
But the thing is, the classic thing is you roll back the clock, don't you? So like when he was 30, she was either just born or not born yet.
Yeah, but he wasn't going after her then, so...
That'd be weird.
I guess you got to give him that.
He like met the dad, was like, "Got on, mate."
Yeah, I mean, I guess technically as long as no one's doing anything illegal, then it's nobody's business, is it? But
is it morally questionable? We definitely see it as more morally questionable, a man doing it in comparison to a woman, don't we?
I don't know. I think that... because who was the other couple I mentioned to you? Sam Taylor Johnson.
Yeah, the next James Bond.
Yeah, and his wife. And the fact that they met when he was 17, 18.
Yeah.
And she's significantly older than him. I think in general, men, it's not seen as... Like, I'm pretty sure amongst men, like his mates, when she leaves the room to go to the toilet, are like, well, look at you, you old stud. Like, what a good job you've done with that 34-year-old girlfriend. It's seen as like a status thing, isn't it, for older men to have younger
I think when
partners.
we're younger, yeah. But I think if you're like in your 20s, because we've had mates that have dated reasonably older women than them. And like the jokes have more been about their age rather than...
No, but I mean in terms of if the man's older and he's got a young partner.
I think it depends on what sort of blokes you are. Like, I
Yeah.
think our group, we would be a bit like, it's a bit morally questionable. But I think there's also the laddish side of it, like, yeah, mate, come on, tell me how good it is.
Well, exactly. But I think the other way around, women aren't afforded the same social kudos from it.
Well, I think you're then a cougar, aren't you? That's quite a...
Well, and really, that's not so much of a thing, is it? Like, you really don't get as many...
Well, Hugh Jackman and his wife were similar. She was a bit older than him, I believe.
But they've now got divorced.
Yeah, it's quite sad.
Yeah, I mean...
I keep waiting to find out he's gay.
To be honest with you, for me, it's more like... I mean, forget the physical side of it, which I personally can't get my head around in terms of really young women with really old men. but what have you got in common? Like,
No, totally. You're not at the same place in life.
no, like I've seen a few things of Hugh Hefner and some of the women that used to live with him for a time.
Yeah.
And they had absolutely nothing in common with
That's
him.
a really creepy situation, though.
Yeah, I mean, he was gross, but all of his friends were like 80, 90-year-old men, and these are all 21, 22-year-old women, and they're watching black and white films in smoking jackets. And like these girls, their grandparents weren't even alive when these films were being made, and Hef was young. So it's just, yeah, like surely a relationship is about like also being friends and having things in common. And what have you got to talk about when you didn't, you weren't going to school at the same time? And
well, yeah, and like your generational like pop culture references are completely different as well, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, and I listened to, who's that political guy, Ollie Dugmore,
Yeah.
and they were talking about Tony Blair. And he said Tony Blair was Prime Minister for his entire childhood.
Yeah, me too.
And then that made me think, oh yeah, me too. But if you're with someone,
wasn't it like 12 years?
I think, did he do 3 terms? Didn't he do 14 years or something?
4-year terms at the time, I think.
So 12 years, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it made me think about like, so if you're with somebody much older than you who lived for a completely different like political period, your experience of going to school and just everything would have been completely different. So
well, like with that guitarist, he was born near World War II. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
exactly.
she was born in the 80s.
And like even with my age gap with my husband, he's a fair bit older than me, and like little things like we like completely different music. Because when I was at school, it was all the 90s pop, hip hop, R&B, Spice Girls, boy bands and everything, and he couldn't think of anything worse to listen to. Whereas when he was an adolescent and a teenager, it was all getting into dance music and raving, and it's a whole different generation. So yeah, I just think practically, and one of you's gonna leave the other one. The people I think are selfish are like, who's the only fools and horses guy that keeps having babies, and he's like,
oh, what, the main guy?
Yeah, what's his name?
I'm not a big David Jason.
David Jason. Hasn't he just had a baby at
Has
like 70 something? So was and I really like him, Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
He's just had a baby really old. And the thing is, I think like just because you can doesn't really mean you should. Like, okay, so you're going to leave, when you die, you're going to leave that kid with all the money for the rest of their life.
Not a dad.
But it'd be better if they had their dad. And if they had a dad when they were 10 that could run around with them and isn't potentially in a care home or has Alzheimer's or... And I can't get my head around women wanting to do that to their children.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure but you can't help who you love really comes into it, because...
The thing is, though, I find it impossible to believe, like, with Robert De Niro, for example, and I'm probably doing his missus a massive disservice, but I can't imagine she is actually in love with him. I find that almost, like, for all the reasons you've laid out, like, they've got nothing in common.
Well, and how do you even find yourself in the same environment as someone that much older than you in order to fall in love with them? Do you know what I mean?
And I can't imagine, for example, if I was single, if I ran into a rich 80-odd-year-old woman, because it's the same age difference, that I would feel in any way sexually attracted to her.
I mean, who's that porn star? Was she a porn star? Anna Nicole Smith?
Okay.
Who sadly, I think she died of a drug overdose a few years ago, but she married this, like, I think he was an oil tycoon.
Yeah.
And the picture of them on their wedding days, I think he was 90 and she was 21 or 19. In some ridiculous wedding dress. He sat in a wheelchair, and you have never seen an unhappier bride in your life.
Yeah.
And it's just like...
But why was she doing it?
What? Well, she then got famous for that.
Yeah, so that's why she did it.
But there's also the Celine Dion... There's a Celine Dion documentary coming out at the end of this month.
Wasn't she married to her manager or something?
Yeah, who she met when she was 12.
Okay.
And he was married and I think had children.
Yeah.
He was, say, 38 when she met him at the age of 12 running this record company. He then obviously sees something in her, makes her famous. At some point must have split up with his wife.
Yeah.
And then when Celine was in her early 20s, it progressed into more of a relationship. And she's never...
is that grooming? Like,
well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I've always just, because I'm a Celine Dion fan because of Dad, I've always just been like, well, that's who her husband is. She's with someone much older than her, and sadly, he's now passed away from cancer. And
were they always married? So, like, they've never broken up?
No, like,
oh wow,
I think they got married when she was in her early 20s. They had a huge wedding in Canada. You could barely see her for all the lace she had on, and then they were married. He got cancer. He got throat cancer, recovered. Then they had 2 sons, and then I think about 10 years later, the cancer came back again. But I'd never thought about it. I just thought, oh, well, that's who Celine Dion's husband is. But all the comments I saw with this little clip of the documentary were all about how he's gross because he groomed her and he met her when she was a 12-year-old, and that just kind of, it made me look at, I hadn't even considered it. And I guess, is that right though, or could it have just been that he managed her when she was 12, never even considered her like that, and then by the time she got to an adult and he got divorced, it was like, oh, actually,
well, it's a similar like question to like the Schofield stuff, that he knew that boy from when he was young, and then once he was older, they claim that's when their relationship started.
Well, and to be honest with you, if people have a problem with that, then they should have a problem with the Queen and Prince Philip, because I'm pretty sure the Queen was about 12 the first time she met Prince Philip. Yeah, she met him when he was a really young first naval officer, I believe. And remember, they're first cousins as well, so they're...
Shit, I didn't know they were cousins.
Yeah, they're first cousins, so it'd be like you marrying... 666. Can you imagine? But she was a child when they met, and then they met again when she was a bit older, and she went all gooey-eyed for him and fell for him. But so does that mean that if you're an adult and you met someone as a child, if you then meet them as an adult, you couldn't ever have...
It makes me feel a bit icky, if I'm being honest.
I mean, and when I start saying it out loud, I'm like, no, that
say,
does
like,
sound
for example,
weird.
I don't know, me and Leanne have a kid, we have a daughter, and Jake knows her, and then in 20 years' time...
When Jake's 50...
her and Jake end up together,
Yeah,
I'm going to
weird.
have an issue with that.
Yeah, totally, yeah.
I'd be like, you're literally bagging my daughter.
So it kind of like, it made me think about it differently, and I thought, oh, that's a shame really, because it kind of...
I don't like it. I think it's gross. Like, people like these famous men in particular, you can find someone age appropriate.
I think the same with the women that are with much older men though. It's like, where were you even hanging out to find this old dude? Were you at like a Sun Life senior home or something?
They're probably hanging out in like posh bars waiting for old
expensive hotel lobbies, or do they get themselves a job as their secretary or someone in one of their offices and
dropping pencils and all that.
Special massages when you drop the paperwork in.
And look, you can't blame men. Women are wily, dangerous creatures. We can't help ourselves.
Well, look, we've been told since Eve.
Yeah, women are the problem.
Women are the problem.
Look, I'm glad we got to the bottom of it.
Yeah, totally.
Whether it's the man or woman who's older, it's the woman's fault.
It's the woman's fault because she's just there being all
that
attractive
poor old
and
man.
shit.
That poor man was minding his own business.
Look, this is exactly why.
Stop banging the bloody table.
Sorry. Bang, bang, bang on the podcast. Sorry, everyone. But look, maybe that's exactly why the people of certain religions
hate women.
No, encourage their women folk to cover themselves up, and so that no one else can see them, because it's not your guys' fault that we're so damn sexy.
Islam's making a lot more sense to me now.
It really is, isn't it? Like,
I'd get so much more done if I wasn't just looking at flesh all the time.
Yeah, if I just couldn't see boobs.
God, I can see her forearms.
Her legs. Is that a big toe?
For certain men, that would get them there.
Yeah.
So no, I'm seeing the appeal of Islam more and more.
Yeah, it's all about
Fuck,
protecting.
that's why I voted Sadiq. Like, that means
You
it's
and
worked.
Sadiq
It's
that's
worked.
it.
He's brainwashed me.
Totally. And it's to protect you men from us disgusting
The truth that's
women.
actually the truth, though, isn't it? That's why we've done it over these years, is because we've just decided women are the problem and men are all right.
Well, yeah, because your self-control doesn't come into it anywhere.
No, it doesn't. We don't ever hold men responsible.
Men
for
aren't
any of
expected
it.
to have any self-control. No, it's
And like, I think the attitude we get down to with people like Leo is like, oh, but come on, why wouldn't he? Do you know what I mean? I think that's where.
I don't know, and I just think he's making himself look silly now because
Well, it sort of it takes a shine off of him because
Totally.
he is such a honestly,
he's amazing,
generational talent.
and he could have some really hot woman around his own age that was just as famous and awesome as him.
George Clooney and his missus, she's like a human rights activist.
Yeah, and she's beautiful. Yeah,
but like, there's an age difference, but it's not.
Yeah, but I think he's like, say, is he nearly 60, 50 odd, and she's like in her mid 40s, so it's not.
No, totally.
And okay enough of a gap that they've had children, and so I don't know.
I have heard the other side of the argument from people like Larry Lamb, because he had children as an older man. I think he was like 60 when he had a kid.
Oh, really? I had no idea. I like Larry Lamb.
I think he got remarried and it was to a younger woman. And he said in his opinion he was able to be a much better father now at that point, because he said I was still in good enough health that I could be active with them. He said I don't need to work as much because I've already made most of my money. Yeah,
and you're more patient when you get older and less selfish and... Yeah, but ultimately they still get less life with you.
No, totally.
Like, would we have preferred it like Dad if we had 10 more years with Dad?
Well, Dad was 40 when I was born.
Yeah.
So.
And I look at my husband now and the fact that he's 51 and he still has his dad, whereas my dad was dead by the time I was...
There's people I work with at work that are in their, like, 40s and... 50s and they've still got their parents, and you're like, that's not fucking fair, is it?
Well, no, Mum had her mum until she was just over 40, mid 40s, and then her dad until she was 50.
Yeah.
So.
And we've talked about before, we're still not ready to be adults. Do you know what I mean? We still need our dad. Do you know what I mean?
No, I was talking about someone to Mum earlier who lives at home with his parents. And now he's 18.
Oh, no, that's right.
If they order a takeaway, he has to pay for his part of the takeaway.
Okay.
And it made me realise how spoilt me and you are.
Totally.
And I said to Mum went, yeah. And I said, because if we're honest, we still expect you to pay for our takeaway now.
I blame Dad for that, though. I mean, because Dad was unbelievably generous in a lot of ways.
But I think if I could afford it, I mean, even if I couldn't afford it, I think I'd be exactly the same with my kids. Like, I can't imagine my kids living with me and making them pay for their own
18
takeaway.
Feels harsh, if I'm being honest. But I think the way if they were working, if they were still in education, that feels really harsh. But if they were working even part-time, maybe not every takeaway, but maybe the way you do it once a month, you treat me and your mum to one.
I think I've clearly just been spoilt rotten by Mum and Dad, and I'm like...
Yeah, they're awesome.
No,
Mum and Dad are awesome.
Pay for that takeaway. No, I said to Mum, like, we're obviously very lucky and spoilt.
No, look, I would say...
I'd have been watching Mum and Dad eat a lot of takeaways while I ate cereal.
I mean, genuinely, like... It was a good and bad thing. I love takeaways, as you can tell from this physique. But part of the reason I have this physique is because Mum and Dad ordered far too many takeaways
all the time. Yeah, I'm sure we had 2 or 3 a week.
I definitely remember weeks where you weren't living here, where we had.
I think it got worse.
Yeah.
As we got older and I'd gone to uni for sure. But I definitely remember times where there'd be kebab, Chinese, Indian in a week. Yeah. And I always felt sorry for Mum because it was Dad that wanted the takeaway and Mum had to go out and get it.
Yeah, before the days of Just Eat and Deliveroo.
Yeah.
Dad
but Dad's favourite Chinese still isn't on Just Eat or Deliveroo, is it?
No, that's very true.
So Mum would still have to be going out and getting it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bless them. But I would say we had, if you look at it, an upper working class upbringing?
Well, I'm not.
Because mum and dad,
yeah, I guess
for the
so, 'cause
majority of
we
our
were
childhood,
comfortable.
their income was, I would say, above the national. It's above the national average now. If I remember correctly, what Dad was earning at the time, he was on above what is now the national average.
But Andrew, we definitely went without growing up.
Yeah, well, we didn't have Sky.
We didn't have Sky,
No.
so we can absolutely empathise with our poor Prime Minister, millionaire Rishi Sunak, married into a billionaire family, who didn't grow up without Sky. I actually said to Mum, I remember when we got cable installed, and
Wasn't it Telly West?
Something like that, but it was a massive thing then. They had to dig up half the road and actually lay cable.
Yeah.
And I remember putting off you learning how to change the channel on the remote for as long as possible because you wanted to find Cartoon Network.
You're an evil person.
I really am.
You?
And then when you eventually worked it out, I was not happy.
Yeah. I remember me and you used to fight over the remote all the time.
Yeah, because you only wanted Cartoon Network.
Yeah, and all you wanted to watch was MTV.
Music videos, yeah.
It used to piss me off. It was always the same songs over and over again, and I wasn't into music when I was a kid.
Well, no, because you were, when I was doing that, I was about 14 and you were about 9 or 10. So, of course, you weren't into boy bands. And you're into boy bands now, though, aren't you, obviously?
Yeah, love a bit of Backstreet Boys.
Now that you've come out.
Yeah. I mean, look, I am what I am, sis. Do you know what I mean? Genuinely, I remember one of my friends, Mia, her foster parents thought I was gay. And they said it in front of me as well. And I was like, no, it's not the first time I've.
Yeah, but you know what? There's nothing wrong with being gay, even if you were.
No, totally.
And but if you're comfortable if you know yourself, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks you are, does it? They could think you were a hermaphrodite orangutan and be like, yeah, it's fine, mate.
Yeah, you do you.
You do you, boo.
Yeah. Would you mind if either of your children were gay?
No, I wouldn't mind at all. The only thing that I might struggle with is whether they were treated badly or life was harder for them because they were gay. Yeah. Like if anyone was homophobic towards them.
You'd want to break their legs.
Absolutely, yeah. So no, I don't care what they are as long as they're happy. That's all I care about.
Nice.
Who they choose to go to bed with and have a nice time with is none of my business. As long as all the normal stuff,
and
you're safe, you're respectful, it's consensual.
That's all that matters.
Yeah, don't give a shit.
Yeah, I still don't want a daughter though. If I do have a kid.
No, to be honest, I'm really glad I'm a boy mum. Yeah. Like the responsibility of having a girl and keeping her safe and.
Yeah, honestly, just. It's not because I have an issue with women. I have an issue with men. I don't trust men.
Oh, totally. But then actually it also feels like an equal responsibility to bring up men that aren't dickheads.
I don't know. I don't think it's that difficult, though, to be honest with you.
No, but it seems like it is because everyone seems to have done such a bad job. Yeah.
Because, like, I don't ever really remember Dad ever sitting me down and being like, this is how you behave. He just...
No, but it's modelled behaviour, isn't it?
That's all it can be.
We know Dad Dad didn't have conversations like that. But if there were ever jokes about women, you were very clear that there was a certain line.
And he was very big on, like, if you didn't call Mum by her name or didn't call her Mum.
Yeah, and things like never going in a woman's handbag.
Oh, God, to this day, I still don't do that.
And... You know, he would never be someone that would talk about sex with women. No. He would never be crude about women. No. So I think it's just, if you're brought up with that as modelled behaviour, then that's what you... But and it seems that there's not a lot of that. And the thing is, I think, unfortunately, there's only so much mums can do with boys.
Yeah.
Men are responsible for the men they're raising and they're just going to copy, most of the time, boys are going to copy their dad's behaviour. Yeah. So the reason you've turned out to be a nice man is because you were brought up by a nice man. Yeah. So if we want more nice men in the world, we've got to have children with nice men and not crap ones. Yeah. And like men have got to start calling each other out on bad behaviour.
Totally.
And not being worried about being seen as uncool for telling someone to stop being a sexual predator to someone who clearly isn't interested.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've both seen the same bit of stand-up by Daniel Sloss, haven't we?
Probably, yeah. I've heard lots of men talk about it, to be honest.
Yeah, and he did a stand-up bit about how one of his friends sexually assaulted one of his female friends. And he said, and I honestly had to sit there and think about, was there any signs? And he said, yeah, there were. And he said, and when I thought about why I never said anything, it was because I didn't want to make a scene, or I didn't want to make it
be
awkward.
Ostracised from the
He
group.
says, whereas if I could now go back and give him a slap and be like nip it in the bud before it became an issue.
Because if these men think about it, right, unless that's actually who they really are and how they feel, are you really, you might be what you think is friends with these men right now, but are they really people that you're going to be friends with
100%
long term? Like, they're not the kind of people that, if they'll treat women like that, then they're probably not going to be a good friend to you either.
No.
So I wouldn't be worried about being ostracised from the peer group, because it's probably not a peer group you want to be in anyway long term.
No, very true. I mean, I think I've said this a lot. I got quite lucky with my friends. None of my friends exhibited any sort of behaviour. We had one guy, and I remember not particularly his behaviour towards women, but just his behaviour in general. But normally we were quite good at, if anyone tried behaving like an alpha or anything like that, we just kept insulting them until it brought them down to earth, and either they survived or they didn't. But no, none of us ever, to my knowledge anyway, behaved in a nefarious way. So we got quite lucky, I think, because it does seem like it's fucking rife out there. Well,
and to be honest, I'm sure you'd find as well, if you spent time with those people in other situations, that they probably don't treat very many people with respect in general. No. Like, I personally wouldn't be friends or spend time with people who are rude to service staff.
Oh, anyone who clicks or whistles or servers.
Like, I can't stand it when you're at a self-service checkout and someone turns around and is like gesturing, clicking, waving at the person, and gets aggressive with them and all of that. It's like, I just, so unattractive.
Yeah.
So to be honest, like, cut people out like that out of your life. Otherwise, they're not going to learn that behaviour is not tolerated, is it? So,
no.
And that goes not just how they treat women. If you see them treating anyone with disrespect, call them out on it.
And the thing is, hopefully, if it's something you catch early enough, because it probably starts with stuff that's a bit smaller, like maybe saying something that's a bit inappropriate or a bit too personal. Privately taking them to one side and being like, mate, cut that.
Yeah, you haven't got to show them up.
No, like,
and if they carry on doing it, then
yeah. But no, totally. I think men need to step up in general for stuff like that, and and police it, because that is the main way it's going to stop. If you make sure people know that's not acceptable, which you should know anyway. It's not something we should have to be worrying about, to be honest. That's what I can't wrap my head around, is because it's so foreign to me that you would behave like that.
I mean, again, part of it could be there seems to be a bigger problem in general at life at the moment that isn't really gender specific. People seem to do what they think they can get away with.
Yeah.
So I think if men know that they're around other men that aren't going to call them out on it, they'll do it. But would they talk like that in front of their mum?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think we all have, I think in general right now there's a societal issue with integrity.
Yeah.
And the fact that people will do things when they think they're not being watched that they wouldn't do if they're being watched. So I think actually if we address that.
Do you think that since COVID that it's got worse?
I think definitely, because for several reasons. Firstly, because it affected us socially so badly. Yeah. Like, I really don't know how to behave socially anymore, because
I can totally get
it just barely happens. But also, I think because we watched our current government break all of the rules they were telling us that we had to live by, and we'd be fined and arrested and punished if we didn't follow those rules. Well, it's now like, well, if the people in charge of us are doing whatever they think they can get away with when no one's watching, why should the rest of us plebs not be playing the same game as well? So that was one of the things that disappointed me most about the Partygate thing. It was like, well, if you're not going to follow the rules,
why the fuck should we?
And some people like you and I still will, but
I ended up breaking the rules. Me and a friend went away during lockdown. And to be honest with you, I think we'd have probably done it.
Did we break the rules at Christmas? Did we not? I can't remember. We were going to, and then we got COVID
I was
anyway.
say, you guys got COVID, didn't you?
So we didn't that year, but well, I mean we did. But no, we were pretty good overall, weren't we?
Well, for me, like, COVID was quite weird because my life was more or less normal.
Going to work, coming home.
Yeah, other than having a mask, because I worked in retail, I didn't. Other than having to self-isolate because someone you were within 2 feet of got COVID, I would have to have 2 weeks at home, which I was like, sweet, it's 2 weeks paid holiday basically that doesn't come out of my holiday allowance.
Yeah.
And I actually think they should do medical tests on me because I was untouched.
Have you still never had COVID?
Not to my knowledge. I'd need to do the antibody test to find that out.
Maybe you had it, or you were a carrier and you just never actually had any symptoms.
Yeah, possibly.
But yeah.
I just think I'm a medical marvel.
Medical marvel. Well, we know that.
Besides the humongous penis, do you know what I mean?
Well, look, I'm your sister. It's not appropriate. I have no clue about the size of your penis. I hear
Everyone knows.
I hear the rumours.
Yeah, you hear on the grapevine.
I hear the whispers.
And you're like, please, that's my brother.
You can hear it being dragged along the floor as you walk, but
you hear the second splash when I jump in the swimming pool.
Sometimes I walk in on you strapping it to your ankle.
Look, what can you do?
What can you do?
Yeah.
So I believe you have some questions from Jake.
Oh, well done, show. I would have been in trouble if I'd forgotten those. I need to go into my messages. And then these ones. Right, so what Jake's done, would you like his update on what he's been up to, or do you want to do the questions first?
Yeah, let's do his update.
Right. Oh. Turn that up. This should work.
So, a little Jake's update, a little update from me on where I am and what I'm doing. So I'm in Galway, in Ireland, on the west coast of Ireland, the kind of capital of the west. It's a really cute little town, very musical. Down one street in particular, in the Latin Quarter, there were 7 buskers. I only recorded 6, but I'm putting together a little video of them. But 7 buskers in one town, and then pretty much every pub you went into had live music. Very musical. Where have we been? We've been to Belfast, Giant's Causeway. We've been to Derry. Been up in the Highlands. We've been in Glasgow, where I got my amazing Greg's haul from the non-hot food outlet of Greg's, where I managed to get 8 sausage rolls, 12 yum-yums, a couple of baguettes and a bottle of Lucozade for under a £5. Absolute bargain. Up in the Highlands, did Edinburgh. Beautiful town, Edinburgh. We love Edinburgh.
So
also fed some cows, some Highland cows just outside of Edinburgh. And we also did the Stirling Monument, the Wallace Monument, for William Wallace, for Braveheart.
Freedom!
Yeah, lovely little group. We've also done York, Newcastle, Alnwick Castle. We did the broom flying lessons. It's all good fun, and I've had a lovely time so far. Really enjoyed my first trip, and I really, really can't wait to get back and do some more podding. Get back on the podcast, get back on the Crossing Swords. But I hope you guys are having a wonderful time recording. Hope you guys answer my questions brilliantly. I've enjoyed the episode, the first episode with our guest host, and I look forward to this one too. So guys, enjoy. From here I'm on to Dublin, and then we snake our way through Wales before visiting Bath and Stonehenge on the last day back to London. So I'll see you soon.
Thank you, Jake. We appreciate your voice message. It's nice to hear you're having a good time.
Yeah, he's getting about a bit, isn't he?
To our fallen soldier out there, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Gone but not forgotten.
Come back safely, Jake. Make it home safely.
Exactly.
We miss you. No, he sounds really happy, like he's having a great time.
Yeah. No, I think it's awesome, to be fair. He's going to see so much.
I can't... How long's he been away for? Because that's a lot
It's only about a week so far.
Wow. They must be going to a different place every day. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Sounds really cool.
Yeah. All right, you ready for a question?
Yeah, let's
do it. I don't know
it.
which one this is.
FYI, my answer to the Labour...
Right, that was the wrong one. Look, it wouldn't be Crossing Swords if there wasn't a technical issue.
No, that's what we're here for.
In ancient Egypt, they worshipped cats. In India, or in certain parts of India, the cow is worshipped. Which animal do you think should be deified and worshipped in the UK? And if you'd like, you can even break it down on a home nation basis and tell us in Ireland, Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales and England which animals should be worshipped in each of those countries.
Wow, he's asking a lot there.
I know.
He's expecting we know anything about anywhere other than England.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty English to know nothing about anywhere else.
Yeah. I mean, well, technically England should be the lion, shouldn't it?
What, because that's the national animal?
Supposedly for us.
Yeah.
3 lions on a shirt.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think about the England shirt. I thought the statue first.
But what animals are... I can do the flowers.
What about dragon?
Wales is dragon, isn't it?
Yeah, all right. So Wales has a dragon. We're going to let them deify the dragon. But then, no, but do you need a living animal? Because like, otherwise I'm saying unicorn or something like that. You know what I mean?
Well, and who'd win in a fight, a lion or a dragon?
I mean, that's pretty easy.
I don't know.
A dragon
Nifty
breathes
them
fire.
lions. Yeah, but they can run fast.
And lions sleep for like 18 hours a day. So like dragons are all about that life.
What's Ireland's animal?
Oh, what do they have in Ireland? Rabbits?
Potatoes.
that's their animal.
Yeah.
On their flag, a national animal's the
I don't
potato.
know. I feel like it should be something quirky, like a barn owl.
What, us or Ireland?
The whole United Kingdom.
Owl's a bit gay, if I'm being honest.
You do know how far they can move their head round?
Yeah, 360, innit?
Yeah, they're pretty, you know.
Dexterous.
Yeah.
No, I'm not about that. I think it's got to just be a dog.
A dog?
A dog. Dog's a man's best friend. We don't deserve them. I know you discarded yours like it was...
Wow.
But some of us value dogs.
We won't go there. No, I'm not down with dogs. I'm sorry. If it's a dog, it might as well be like...
What about like a golden lab?
No, like... You can't have a golden lab as your national symbol.
Well, technically we're deifying it, so we say it's on par with God.
Okay, what animal
And
is
Joe,
like God?
This is going to blow your mind. Dog is God backwards.
Well, there you have it then. The answer's dog.
Yeah, and like you could just choose a different dog for each country. Do you know what I mean?
We could have a different dog for every month.
From Wales, they've got a dragon.
Have a different breed for every month.
Yeah, why not?
Cool. Well, that's it then. It's dog.
Wicked. Right, next question.
Just because it's God backwards.
With the UK facing one hell of a summer between a general election and a European tournament, this question is a nice little crossover of both. I'd like you to both tell me which team do you think would win if the cabinets of the Labour Party and the Tory Party had a football game? Who do you think would have the better team?
I had an initial thought, if I may, for a second. Jake, in these clips, is using a voice I've never heard him use before. I feel like it's his
He's using his
presenter
tour guide voice.
Yeah, that must be what it is.
Yeah. He sounds like he could host a game show.
That's exactly
I kind of like it,
I feel like I'm watching Pointless or something.
Yeah.
So no, Jake, well done. I like your presenting voice.
Yeah, he's got a good telephone voice.
For me, I think like this is easy. Although the argument could be made that the Tories would most likely do something nefarious, underhanded, or bribe an official.
They'd be the ones diving.
Yeah, doing all the dirty
breaking
shit.
the offside rule.
But I think you'd have enough grafters and like good wingers in the Labour camp to. The only problem is Keir's their captain and he's not going to want to attack or defend.
I think we just keep him in goal.
Yeah.
Or goal wing. So just like over on the side.
What's goal wing? You've just given away how much football
Is
you
that a
watch.
netball position?
I don't know. It's definitely not a football position. Goal wing.
I'm pretty sure it's a netball position.
And do you know what upsets me with your football knowledge, right? Is you've got to sit in the Royal Box at Wembley to watch football.
I know. I was so aware at the time that it was really unfair on actual
so
football
angry
fans.
at you. I was so angry. I was like, Mum, I think I even said to Mum and Dad, like, this isn't right.
Oh, I think it might even be an American football position.
I don't. I've watched some NFL. I've never heard of a goal wing.
Oh wow!
I think you've just made up a position.
Goal wing position. How to position yourself at. What is the hardest role in netball? Yeah, I think it's a netball position. That's where I've got it from.
Yeah, well, that's a female sport. I've never shown any interest.
Look, we keep Keir on the side, yeah. I think Angela Rayner would be like really dirty playing football. I think that would be fun to watch. I think she'd be tackling and all over the place.
In the mix.
But ultimately, I think
she'd definitely be on the left wing of the team, though, wouldn't she? scapegoat because she's a left-leaning politician.
Well, no, but aren't they all going a bit... hasn't Labour gone a bit right-wing?
Yeah, but she's the only left-wing person left.
Yeah, so have her on left-wing then. Not goal-wing.
Yeah.
Left-wing. That's what I meant.
Yeah, well, we're not playing netball, so you can't have goal-wing, I'm
Can't
afraid.
have goal-wing. Goal attack. Goal defence.
Yeah.
But I mean, Rishi wouldn't even get picked for the team, would he? Like,
No.
you know, he was the kid at school that had his glass taped up.
They
the
didn't want him
glasses
as
taped
Prime
in the
Minister.
middle.
Like, they didn't want him as Prime
Well,
Minister.
no, who was it? It was either him or
Liz Truss.
Liz Truss,
They chose
yeah.
Liz Truss. And if it wasn't for the fact she's arguably the worst Prime Minister in history.
She'd still be Prime Minister.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, she finished the Queen off. That's how bad she was. The Queen went,
Honestly,
nah, mate.
if you look at that month in isolation of like what
The worst things in our
fucking
country
whirlwind.
happened.
Yeah, she saw the end of the Elizabethan era.
And imagine, like, I feel a bit bad for the Queen because of all the things she achieved in her life.
Yeah, the last
Literally on
thing
her
was Liz
deathbed, the
Truss.
last thing she did was shake hands with Liz Truss. Like,
Yeah.
what a shit way to go out.
That do you think
When Churchill was her first Prime Minister,
Yeah.
her last Prime
Is Liz
Minister
Truss.
is Liz Truss. It's
Yeah, mental.
embarrassing.
Yeah.
And if you think, but that's an interesting question, was the country better then or now? I mean, I know it was in the middle of the war then.
No, well, no. When she swore in Churchill, it was post-war.
Okay.
Her dad swore him in for war, and he used her to cling on to power.
Oh, that's right. Her dad and Churchill got through the Second World War, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think if you were looking at numbers, probably better then. Less national debt.
The NHS didn't exist then, though, did it?
They had a lower tax burden. No, they did, because that was
I
created.
thought that was 52.
I don't know. But yeah, lower national debt, lower tax burden. Didn't have all the technological advances. People died a lot earlier, but
Oh, 48.
yeah,
Well,
because
yeah.
that was post World War II. They created that.
No, I think
If you
Posh
ask me when
boys
I'd
don't
rather
know
be
how to-
living, I'd rather be living now with the advancements we have, how long people can live. I just think we're making a massive fucking mess of having all of it.
Yeah. Well, our economy didn't grow at all in April, did it?
No.
Not a single jot.
Well, the thing is, even when they say it's growing, it's not really growing.
No,
And like when they say inflation's down, it's not down.
it's not down.
Um,
Or it might be on a global
yeah.
economic
In terms of,
spreadsheet
like,
somewhere, but in terms of
industry
what
to
we're
industry.
paying in Sainsbury's, it's
Yeah.
not.
Well, that's the thing, because the assumption is that when the inflation drops, companies are going to then not continue to make massive profits. If they can get away with charging you more, they're not going to lower their prices. Or if they do, it's not going to be back down to what it was before.
No, well, what they've done is they've picked a couple of little things
Yeah.
to drop the price lower than they were before they went up by
Yeah.
inflation to make it feel like stuff's coming down.
Yeah.
But when you actually then look at the rest of the prices, they're still just as high or still going up even.
How would you consider yourself politically, like on the spectrum?
It's a really hard question. Can you be...
And you don't have to have an answer, because
I don't know.
there's not like if you're left leaning, you can maybe say the Green Party's who you could
I'm
identify
definitely
with,
left
but,
leaning, but can you be a bit of a right wing left leaner?
I think that makes you more of a centrist then, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was going to say, can I be a centrist?
Yeah.
Like,
you can be whatever you want. That's the thing. Like, there will be people in both parties, whether it's Conservative or Labour, that they'll agree with some of the stuff from the other side. Whether they can say it publicly or not is another thing. But there'll be things they disagree with within their own party. So
yeah, I don't actually know how I'd categorise myself, to be honest, and I'm a bit confused. I still don't know who I really want to vote for in this election, because as I said to you, I listened to Angela Rayner on a podcast on her campaign bus, and I wasn't too keen on half of what she said, and I used to be really all for her. So
I think part of the problem is he's purged the party of the left. So if she sticks her neck out too
he'll get rid of
much,
her too.
if he can get away with it, he will, yeah. And particularly if he's got a huge majority, he'll have no issue if he needs to just chopping her out. So it's disappointing. I'd like to think, like, I've heard things about, like, there's going to be a deputy leader's office for the first time ever, so she'll be handling a lot of apparently social economic programs herself, and she'll
be doing half of his job for him.
Sort of, yeah, dealing with the more socialist stuff, so that I guess he has a bit of distance from it. So he's like, I'm not the left wing one. I'm the guy that oversees.
Oh, is that the angle?
That's my theory.
Is that all the stuff around benefits and
anything left leaning? He's sort of going. He could potentially go, oh well, that's not me. That's, you know.
I'm not giving people more universal credit.
Yeah.
That's Rayner's job. Yeah.
But as of today, they dropped their manifesto, and there's nothing in there they haven't already told us. And that was the thing in the debates last night. I think it was. He was saying, "I'll wait till tomorrow when we drop the manifesto. It's going to be fire." Do you know what I mean? He's just, it's going to be on fleek. Do you know what I mean? He's like, everything you need, we're just sprinkling it in. But yeah, it was all stuff they said before. It was stuff like breaking the criminal gangs for immigration, creating like a border task force that goes after the gangs that ferry the people over.
To be honest
here.
with you, is that really on the top of most people's agenda?
It seems to be. At least what the politicians think people are
to be honest with you, I couldn't give a shit about that. That's on the bottom.
No, I know.
Like, I'm not saying it's not something that isn't a problem and doesn't need dealing with, but I'm more bothered about the fact that nurses are going to food banks. Like, I think that's more important.
Yeah. He has said that he will do what the Conservatives haven't, and when there are strikes, in particular with the junior doctors, they're currently striking over.
Well, they've been doing that for ever.
But he said, like, they're just not getting in the room with them. Because the junior doctors, their opening offer is we want 35% pay rise.
Yeah, that's
and
silly.
Keir Starmer said, well, I won't give them that, but I'll at least get in the room and hash out a deal and maybe a staggered pay increase and stuff
over 5 years.
Yeah, he's like, but I'm not going to say what that number is because I don't know the details yet. And whereas the Conservatives have just decided, oh yeah, we're just not going to deal with that. And wait till there's been a general election so they don't have to deal with any of it.
And just grind the NHS to a halt in the process.
Yeah. Well, the problem is it's already been privatised, and the worse you make the NHS, the more of an argument there is to bring privatisation in. So the worse it works, the better it is for anyone.
I'm pretty sure that was Margaret Thatcher's plan.
Well, yeah.
All the way back then. Yeah. She absolutely hated anyone needing a handout, anyone needing help.
Yeah. Hated unions.
Hated anyone having any rights.
Hilariously, though, the only thing I'd say in her defence, she was very green. She was like actually a genuine trailblazer at the time for climate change and things like that. But outside of that, the woman's full
everything else could go in the bin.
Yeah, and the damage she's done to our country is immeasurable, and that just feels like a Tory trait, to be honest. What we've lived through in the last 14 years.
Well, and have we even recovered from?
Well, no, we
Thatcher being Prime Minister, and
probably not. No.
I'm liking the look of the Liberal Democrats at the moment.
I've got to be honest, I was quite dismissive of Ed Davey, and I've sent you some of the clips of him like fooling around, and it made me think he wasn't being that serious. But having seen the video of him discussing his special needs son and the way he gets choked up when he talks about it, I was like, okay, no, I can support someone who's that human. And
I think he's marketing himself as the fall guy at the moment on purpose, because it's such a stark contrast between what the others are doing.
Oh, totally.
And they don't really have a choice because of they're the two main parties.
Well, the problem is if you actually have a realistic chance of being Prime Minister, you can't be seen paddleboarding and falling over. And
to be honest with you, though, why not? They are human.
No, totally. But I think it's because, one, they're the genuine face of your country. And like, if you're seen to be looking like a bit of a dickhead, it's not something as a political leader you can shake off.
So does that mean they can't do anything fun?
Not publicly, no.
So how are you meant to do anything fun in private all the time?
Rishi Sunak tried. He tried having a kick around with some kids and just looked absolutely shit, and it didn't look good.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and like... And also, they have their finger over the nuclear button. You don't really want someone who's slipping and sliding. And that's the thing. Ed Davey's not going to be Prime Minister. So he and the Lib Dems, particularly with people our age and younger, they have no credibility with the
But
electorate because of what they did when they got into power.
But that's what I mean. I wonder if that's where we're going wrong. Like, I totally understand that most of the time what they do has to be super serious and they've got the most important job in the country. But would we not find these people a bit more relatable if we actually saw them mucking around occasionally?
Well, that's why I now like Ed Davey, because he's made himself relatable and more
rather
human.
than Rishi Sunak, who's pretending he's ordering things from McDonald's that they haven't made for years and doesn't know, is just smashing a credit card at a plastic screen and doesn't know how to pay for anything. I'd much rather I saw my Prime Minister fall off a paddleboard than
behaving like that.
Than that idiot.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And it's a shame because, like, if you look at Rishi Sunak's life on paper, it should be a celebrated story. Like, his family emigrated here. He's first generation living here. They work their asses off to become a pharmacist and I think work in the NHS. Put him through private school. He goes to some of the most prestigious schools in the country. Goes on to have an incredibly successful financial career, morally questionable, but a successful career. And then enters politics and within 6 years becomes the Prime Minister.
Well, and you've also missed out married into the wealthiest family in India.
Yeah. But like, his life on paper should be a success story, but he's going to be remembered for not being a very nice person.
There's something about him that's just so
the problem is
genuine.
I think that's because he's had so much success that for the first time in his life, he's been confronted with failure, and I don't think he knows what to do.
And he comes across to me, just looking at him, his body language, his mannerisms, like you could peel his face off and you'd find a circuit board behind it.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, there doesn't seem to be any warmth, compassion.
But if you've never experienced any hardship, I mean, I'm being ungenerous because I know he didn't have Sky. But if that's the level to which you've suffered, and that would have been for comparatively a brief period of his life, if we're being generous and saying he suffered.
Well, and also think about it, right? You can't be going without something if you don't know it exists.
No.
And as Sky didn't exist as a concept, full stop.
No, and that was something like posh families had, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, no, apparently there was I heard someone say, when I was listening to him talk about Richie, that there was a stigma around Sky and that you were basically council house people if you had Sky. Yeah.
Oh, see, I always saw it as like, oh my God, they've got Sky.
No, I think originally it was you sit on benefits and watch telly all day thing. But how can Richie say he went without something that wasn't even a concept? You didn't know it existed, so you can't know you were going without it.
I just feel like, though, his time since becoming the Prime Minister has just been littered with, at every stage it's just gone wrong.
Yeah.
And like during the leadership election, not knowing how to use a contactless card, and like the clip of him as a younger man saying, I don't have any working class friends.
And he sounds even posher then than he does now. So I think he's tried to
he would have absolutely
unposh his accent so he sounds a bit more normal.
Yeah, but there's no part of him that's relatable. Or
when he asked the homeless man he was serving food to in a soup kitchen what business he was in.
Being homeless, mate.
Yeah, I'm in the business of having nothing.
Yeah.
How about that?
But like, how can he? And that's the thing. Like, does his wealth affect you? Like, if Keir Starmer was as wealthy as he was, would you have an issue with him being Prime Minister? Do you know what I mean? Like,
to be honest with you, I don't think anyone that wealthy should be Prime Minister. No. I don't like the fact that Sir Keir Starmer is going to be Prime Minister because it's not relatable.
No, but it's not uncommon in terms of Prime Ministers. Quite often, Knights of the Realm got elected, and
that's fine. But I don't think
I
anyone.
Think it has gone against him for the majority of his time as Labour leader, to be fair.
Well, and he's not as working class as he likes to make out either. He went to effectively a private school, although it wasn't a private school when he went there, but it was an academy. It was the same thing. Yeah. He comes from parents that were comfortable and had money. And yes, they worked, so they're technically working class, but they're upper working.
Look, you don't end up as Keir Starmer if you were raised on a council estate.
You don't end up a sir like that, do you?
That's what I'm saying, not Sir Keir Starmer.
No, exactly.
He doesn't become head of the Crown Prosecution Service and all of that.
That means we've had an expensive education. And
do you think we can trust him?
I don't find him very trustworthy,
No.
if I'm honest. I don't. The thing is, but Angela Rayner did that to me the other day when I watched her answering those questions. It's like you're answering exactly the same way they all answer.
Yeah.
It's all PR.
And I think what they all miss, every politician, and some seem to get it. I don't know if you see much of him, Stephen Flynn. He's the head of the SNP in Westminster, and he's one of the more open and blunt politicians. He's called out Brexit for being shit, which is something no one wants to touch or talk about. Ed Davey now does as well. He wants us to basically rejoin the single market, which would mean we'd have to have freedom of movement again and things like that. He's the first one to openly say we want to do that. But
Brexit was just...
we much, like, as a country, like, if during COVID, for example, they'd have just genuinely laid out, like, the honesty of what we're going to do, people accept it. Whereas if you lie to us and then do something else behind closed doors, we don't accept it. But none of them seem to pick up on that lesson in any situation.
But Boris doesn't know how to do anything other than lie. Like, lying is Boris's truth.
For his entire life.
Well, interestingly, though, does Rishi's missus live at Downing Street with him, and do the kids live there? Because, we never, ever see Rishi Sunak's wife anywhere. And we actually don't know anything about him or how he lives.
Well, I know they have multiple properties.
Mm-hmm.
I actually don't know. I would assume that probably officially they all live there. Whether they practically do or not, I don't know.
Because I've heard rumours the date of the election was called when it is so that he can go to America.
Yeah, I've heard that
and
as
go
well.
and live in America, and his kids go and be
school.
enrolled at school in America.
Yeah. I mean, look, I don't think he's going to be an MP if he loses.
He wasn't an MP before, was he?
Yeah, you have to be.
Oh, okay, fine.
Like Boris Johnson had a constituency. There's Theresa May's still a
yeah, but
MP.
that's only for because you can't do the big job without doing the.
Yeah.
It's not because Rishi Sunak actually wants to be an MP.
No, I think personally the reason he's wanted to be Prime Minister is for some of the reasons we saw in links when we were discussing politics this morning. The backroom deals, your own personal
international
wealth
trade
going up 120 million in a year.
Yeah.
Like if he's focused on being a prime minister, his money shouldn't be going up by that much. Do you know what I mean?
No. And it's a shoe-in into big business.
Yeah. The contacts,
We're in business with the former prime minister of
How
the UK.
long has it been since Boris Johnson was prime minister? A year? No,
18 months.
No,
isn't
it'll
it?
be probably about 20.
Oh no, because we
Maybe
had
21 because of
Liz.
Liz Truss and elections and whatever.
Yeah.
He's made about £10 million.
Well, but I
from
mean,
speeches.
but wasn't he going bankrupt being our poor prime minister? Didn't he say he was struggling to pay the nanny?
Yeah, he was. Because the prime minister, I think, gets something like 200 grand a year.
Yeah.
And he was earning more than that after being prime minister, doing a weekly column for the Mail, I think. So I think he was getting 600 grand to do that.
Wow. A year?
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's just a side hustle. And as a prime minister, you can get millions of pounds to go do speeches in the Middle East and around the world, and
clearly too much money in fake news
and consultancies. Yeah. And like what annoys me is people, like, we're going to get rid of the Tories by the looks of things, but they're not going to answer for any of the damage they've done, whether it's the dodgy contracts during COVID, the lying,
they've got away with all of
hiding
it.
evidence, like Rishi Sunak has refused
all
to
their
hand
accidental phones
Yeah,
they've
all that
lost,
stuff.
and I updated my phone and it wiped all of my data.
Yeah, or I just don't know how to access it, or I
I
exposed.
don't remember my password.
For Boris Johnson, one of them was I compromised my phone, so I can't turn it on because otherwise the people I compromised it to will be able to access all the information on it.
Right.
And like Boris Johnson,
And we just buy that shit.
as Home Secretary, used to go off on his own to places he was told not to go to be with people he shouldn't be hanging around with documents he shouldn't have on him. And they're all just going to get away with it. And that's what, like, I'll be happy they're gone, but they all get to slink off into the sunset richer than they were at the start of it all, and going to be even richer down the line.
Yeah.
While the rest of us are just left. And I think that's why, like, for me with politics, I have no hope in any of the stuff that's going to come going forward. I've not heard anything from Labour that makes me feel safe or secure.
Is it 5 years now or 4 years?
It'll be 5 years.
No, I think we're going to have a really rough 5
Yeah,
years.
so
It's
do
not going
I.
to get any better because, as we've said, like realistically and based on Labour's manifesto, what can they do? There's no money. We're in the worst situation we've been in since the Second World War.
That's the thing that bugs me. There is the money, though.
If it was managed properly.
We just don't want to go after it. The money's with the rich, so you need to get it from them.
Oh, no, they've decided what they're going to do instead is investigate tax fraud.
Yeah.
Because there's apparently £6 billion there. But I reckon if you went after all the you real billionaires, there'd be a hell of a lot more there.
But yeah, no, like, I have no faith in any of it. So like for me, I just want to try and educate as many people as possible. Like, and when I'm trying, I need to get better at it. When I hear people say stuff, most of the time I'm like, oh, I can't be bothered to engage with that. But I think a bit like with men calling out other men, like we all need to like call out idiots.
Oh, absolutely.
Because there's so many of them out there, and it's people from the same demographic as us that are working class that have had similar upbringings, but because their parents think a certain way and have a certain opinion, they just carry that torch for that reason because it's what their parents believe.
Yeah, and apparently we should keep the Conservatives after 14 years of them ruining the country because there's a rumour, which isn't true, that Sadiq Khan's going to introduce pay per mile if Labour get in, and it's just propaganda nonsense.
Yeah.
And how you can say that even if he did introduce pay per mile, and I think if he did, we'd then see riots on the streets. And look, Wales have just undone turning the country into a 20-mile-an-hour zone because the Welsh have kicked off so much about it. So I think if we had pay per mile, it wouldn't even be in for 24 hours, or it wouldn't make it to the end of the week. That pay per mile, even if he did bring it in, could possibly be a good enough justification for voting Conservative this time. It's just absolutely crazy. So,
and the other justification we saw from someone that was that he's only had 18 months in office, so he's not had enough time.
He's not had a chance to absolutely wreck it all.
And that's why you responded with links to stuff that he's done since being Prime Minister, which has just been to fill his own pockets and his family's pockets. Like he broke Green Convention like they'd all agreed we're not going to do any more oil licenses in the North Sea because it's bad for the environment. He announces a whole plethora of new contracts for the North Sea. And coincidentally, a few days before, his family had signed a deal with BP for its second largest deal in its history, 1.5 million euros for contracts for the oil in the North Sea.
Wow, of course.
So yeah,
of course, yeah. And obviously, as of yet, I haven't had a sensible response because there isn't one.
No.
If you're going to lie and then get called out, but that's the Tories all over, isn't it?
Yeah,
absolute
and just
liars.
ignore it and hope it goes away. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Nice one. What else have we got?
I think we've covered everything, haven't we?
Of politics, I would say so. Yeah. I think personally, I'm going to end up voting Lib Dem.
Well, we have to do it tactically, like even if you wanted to vote Reform, or Green or
not
whoever,
Reform myself,
not Reform, no, but it'll end up being a wasted vote if it doesn't knock Conservative out of your area. So we need to vote tactically, and everyone should vote tactically unless we're allowed proportional representation, which apparently is something Labour have.
Of course they are, because if they've got a huge majority, if they change the election system, the incumbent's got the advantage, and they can skew it in a way that will most likely keep them in power. It'd be interesting to see what they do, because I'm not as sold on proportional representation, just because like America have got it.
Yeah, no, I'm not so keen on that, but
I'd want it to be slightly different from America, I would have thought.
Well, yeah, because America, you can basically discount entire states because they're too big.
Well, look, they're in a situation where their president could be pardoning himself when he's in prison.
Well, Biden?
No, Trump. He's been found guilty of all the things he was accused of.
No, but surely he can't still run for president if he's guilty.
There's a precedent. Someone's done it before.
Oh, God. Surely that should be rule number one. You're not a felon.
Apparently
Well,
not.
that tells you everything you need to know about America, doesn't it?
I think it's sparking that debate in America of like, but the problem is like the level of support Donald Trump has is that
Like, you can't join the police here if you have a criminal record.
Yeah.
So how the hell can you be president of the whole free world?
basically like they looked through the rule book and went, fuck.
There's
Like,
no rule
there's
against
actually
it.
nothing against
Because
it.
everyone was hanging on that, weren't they? Like,
Yeah,
but hasn't he? But surely,
I don't know whether he's actually allowed to pardon himself, but that
is
would be
there not a
funny.
caveat though? Like, you're right up to 25 charges
Probably.
because
I don't
he's
know.
on like 36, isn't
Yeah.
he?
Yeah.
So he could still be president and then pardon his own
Well, that
crimes.
I don't know if he could actually pardon
Surely
them,
you
but
can't do that.
I don't know. You'd have to read the fine print, I
Right,
guess.
mate, I'm Googling it. Can a president pardon their own crimes?
But I don't think that stops them being impeached, even if they can.
Okay, and impeached is being made not president anymore.
Yeah, basically, the House votes on whether they have confidence in them continuing or not.
Okay, so it says, look, obviously the internet's already all over it.
Yeah.
The Constitution gives the president broad power to pardon federal crimes, except in cases involving impeachment.
Okay, so yeah, because he would automatically get impeached, I'd imagine.
Because of those crimes. So the second he becomes president,
He would most likely
basically
get
won't be
removed,
anymore.
unless he wins the vote.
Okay, it says the president, however, can't pardon state offences, meaning he cannot pardon himself for the 34 counts in which he was found guilty in New York.
That would have been funny, though.
I, Donald Trump, hereby pardon me, Donald Trump.
Of all my crimes,
Oh dear,
this was always the plan.
that's mental, isn't it?
Yeah.
But he's going to end up being president, though, isn't he?
It does seem to be pointing in that direction, yeah. And to be honest with you, as much as I don't want Donald Trump as president again, it feels almost cruel to put Joe Biden through another 4 years.
And who then impeaches him?
Isn't it the House of Representatives?
So is that basically like
their parliament?
okay?
Because they have Congress. It might be Congress that votes on it. One of their houses votes on it. They have the Senate House and Congress.
Oh, it baffles me there.
I think Congress is their parliament and the House of the Senate is like their lords, I want to say. I could be getting that completely wrong. So I think maybe Congress votes on it.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Um,
We need to go back into our... Doesn't someone try and be impeached in House of Cards?
yeah, the president. That's the whole, spoiler alert, premise of it, is that he slowly brings down the president.
Yeah, I mean, House of Cards came out a while ago, so I'm assuming everyone's seen it already.
Yeah, I'm really bad for that though. In terms of there's like Breaking Bad, I've still not finished.
No, I haven't seen it. I haven't even watched one episode.
You won't watch Sons of Anarchy. Which
I
is a travesty.
tried.
No, but obviously not hard enough.
But I don't think if it's good, you should have to try that hard.
No, but it's the same as like Game of Thrones, like the first half.
I didn't watch that either.
Yes, you did.
I only watched the first 3 episodes of the first series and the last series.
Look, the first series is about setting up the whole rest.
I
of the
got
story.
to when Drogo...
Stop smacking
Oh,
that
sorry.
table, woman.
I got to when... Is it Drogo?
Yeah, Khal Drogo.
Was banging the blonde lady.
Yeah.
And he went to be all rapey about it. And she was like, no, be nice.
Spins him over. And
Spins him over and they have nice, sweet love. And then at some point, not long after that, he dies and she takes her clothes off and screams naked in a circle of fire with all these people around her. And that's when I stopped watching.
You watched most of the first season then?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then I watched the last season.
No, too much goes on in between.
No, I skipped the all the seasons.
So you
in
had
the middle.
no idea what was going on?
Absolutely no clue.
That was the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of.
And I still
That
couldn't
wouldn't
tell
work
you
with
what
any
happened.
series.
No.
I can't imagine any series.
No, the whole
that
time I'm going, so why is she so pissed off? And well, because there's this weird woman who's incesting with her brother and
yeah.
pissed off with the blonde woman and
Well, you
she's
can't-
riding around on
That
a
literally happens.
dragon.
You find out the story about she's banging her brother in the first episode. That's the whole cliffhanger of the first episode.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Because he pushes a little boy out of tower because he catches them banging. Yeah. And that starts everything off.
Oh, I see. I should go back and rewatch it, shouldn't I? Really?
And you should watch Sons of Anarchy while you're at it.
Maybe me and Brad should start Game
Like,
of Thrones.
honestly, the character development in Sons of Anarchy as it goes on, and there's a character called Tig, and at the start of the series, he's one of the most horrible characters, and you're like, I can't imagine ever. But by the end,
He's your favourite.
he's right up there, yeah. And I don't want to ruin why. I think you should watch it.
Fine, at some point. What's it on? Is
It's
it
on
Prime?
Disney, I think.
Oh, Disney.
I think it's on Disney. So yeah, and I honestly persevere through the first series because it all starts to kick off, and you'll start falling in love with the characters, and Katie Sagal's just absolutely phenomenal in it. She's do you remember what was the show with Al Bundy? Was it Married with Kids?
I think so. I never really watched that.
And he had the wife with the big hair.
Yeah, yeah.
It's her.
Oh, okay.
And she's like the main character's mum, and she's married to the head of the motorcycle gang, and she's like a bit of a force. And
Is she fit?
yeah, she is. And she's actually married to the guy who wrote and directed it all.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And they're really nice. I might actually send you a podcast that they're on to tempt you into watching it.
All right. Well, you're definitely starting to persuade me
Yeah.
for sure. Because I'm not sure I really want to watch Game of Thrones from the beginning.
I think it's worth it. They don't stick the landing at all. And like when you see how much effort and time they put into storylines throughout the whole series, and then just you can tell they didn't want to continue with it anymore, and they just wanted to get to the end. And
Well, even having not watched any of it,
Yeah.
the ending was still shit.
yeah, well, it's because it's a shit ending.
Yeah. And I know the whole world was disappointed.
Yeah, like I put there's a cliffhanger. Again, I don't want to spoil the story for you. There's a bit in one of the series where you're like, oh my fucking God. It's like maybe in like the 6th series, I think. And like, there was then like a year between
Series is.
and what happens. And I spent hours watching theory videos and to like figure out what was going to happen with it.
Yeah, yeah.
And then, yeah, they just completely fucked it. And even the guy who wrote the books has said he's not happy with how they handled it in the end.
Because it's not what happens in the book.
And he said, like, from the beginning, he sees the shows as like a different thing to his books, because he was like, you can't ever fully capture what someone's written down on the screen. And like his books in particular are huge,
yeah,
hours and hours to read them. So he's like, you can't. And he was like, even the throne in the series, if you see the depiction in the book, the most accurate he's agreed to himself, it would take up like, I don't know, a great cathedral to have the actual throne in there. It's so big.
Oh, wow.
So he's like, he said it took months for them to make one they were happy with.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Or the one she sits on at the end.
Yeah.
But again, it wasn't that impressive as Thrones go, was it?
No, well, it's actually meant to be 1,000 or 10,000 melted swords of of Aegon the Conqueror's enemies. So all the people he conquered, he had their swords melted down and made the throne out of it. So
I mean, I'd love to be clever enough to come up with a story like Game of Thrones.
We can go see it one day because it's in Ireland. You can go see some of the sets.
Oh, cool.
And you can go sit on the Iron Throne.
Do you know, I wouldn't mind doing that because I'd really like to go to
I'd
the
love to go
Titanic
Ireland.
Museum as well in Belfast.
Maybe, who knows, maybe one day a family trip to
Oh,
Ireland.
look, we could get Jake to hook us up on a nice little...
Jake loves travelling, so he'll be well up for
He
that.
can get us discounted seats on his coach.
That'd be cool. I bet he can't. I bet they're stingy.
Probably, but wouldn't it be funny
We'll
if we
try.
went on a trip and he
Jake,
was
if
our
you're
tour
listening to
guide?
this, write into the podcast,
Right
mate.
into the pod, Jake. We want to hear from you.
And Joe, gesture on the screen, because I'm going to start saying the pod socials as we wrap up.
Here.
I like to time it, the image. So
Here. And here.
And so you can find us on Facebook at Crossing Swords, on Twitter at Swords Crossing, on Instagram and TikTok at CrossingSwords_podcast, and you can email us at CrossingSwords19@gmail.com. And Jake, you have my mobile number, so if you want to write in to tell me whether you can get us discount at your work, then do so. And guys, Joe, thank you for coming on. It's been
Thanks
a
for
pleasure.
having me.
I've had a good laugh. It's gone really quick as well.
Yeah. I hope I've filled your boots okay today, Jake. You'll have to let me know in the comments.
Yeah.
And I'll see you very soon.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to see you probably tomorrow.
Well,
probably.
right now.
Yeah. All right, guys. Take care. Goodbye.
Bye.